When I started my own journey, I actually did things in reverse to what he teaches. I started with forgiveness, and then I started with acceptance. Those were two of the key things that I did that really helped me go on and have a newfound freedom that I had never experienced before. You know, my life up until my early 40s was filled with rage and bitterness and a lot of judgment and a lot of blame. Instead of taking any kind of responsibility for the results that I had created, it was far easier for me to blame everyone else on how I was showing up in my own life.
Keep Growing with Kevin Faulkner. We do these every Wednesday at 12 Central. Today, we've got Michelle Fuller here. All I ask is two things when we do these things. We do them every Wednesday at 12 noon. I always have great guests on. I always ask two things. First one, if you know anybody that needs help with their credit or needs some advice, I can help in any way. Connect us. I'd love to visit with them and help them any way I can. Secondly, if you hear value, take it and take action on it. Run with it, make something happen with it. I know you're going to hear value today. I know you're going to hear some good things to take action on because Michelle is a total badass. Welcome. I'm glad to have you here.
It's a pleasure. It's so good to see you again.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah, it has been a while.
And I always love to talk with you because, you know, like we've had conversations that have gone on for 2 hours and that's really cool conversations. And it always gets so, and it seems like every time we've ever had one, it's like been like 5 minutes and you look up and it's like 2 hours have gone by. So, and there's some of the best content comes from just having those type of real conversations and just talking about life and what we've been through and what we're going through now, and then what we're going to go through in the future. But before we go into all that, tell us who you are and what you're about and what you do.
Who I am, what I'm about, and what I do. My name is Michelle Fuller. I'm a mindset and performance coach. What do I do? I actually coach professional women who are looking to create a new relationship. That would include women who have experienced heartbreak in the past, probably a divorce, could be a single mom, but these women really desire to create incredible love, but they resist it because they've experienced something in the past that's preventing them from doing that. A little bit about myself. I am a product of my own change. I have 2 failed marriages behind me and a string of really bad relationships. I was the poster child for just awful relationships. It seemed to bring all of the unhealthy relationships to my yard. But back about 6 years ago, I just hit my emotional knees. It was one of the lowest points in my life. And thankfully, I was cognizant enough to realize that I needed to do something differently. And that's when I reached out for help. And from there, I was able to create some incredible change in my life. And now it's my mission to do that for other women.
I know you're doing that. And I've seen amazing growth in you just over the last couple of years that we've known each other. You know, it's been fun, to grow together.
Yeah. It's interesting. Well, we are in the same community, which is Apex. And I really believe that now more than ever, who we spend our time with is critical. It's more critical now than it ever has been. And so I believe that everyone's goal should be to immerse themselves with people who are looking to do something different. In other words, they're going to challenge what they hear and see in the news potentially. They're going to purposely put themselves around people who are growing and doing it on purpose. In a society that tells us that we should be mediocre, it is more important now than it ever has been for us to constantly surround ourselves with people who are doing big things and want to do big things.
Yeah. So I had Greg Michaelman on here last week, and we were talking about that. We got into that. We got into talking about what you would do if you were starting out and didn't know what to do. Like, so if you're on the ground floor, but you know you want to change your life, and the biggest thing that people say is, or that one of the most common things people say is, "Well, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what I want to do," and just the number one thing that I came up with is I like wrote down three things on the call. And the first one was get around the right people.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember when we were growing up, I don't know if you heard this, but I did. It went something like this. If all of your friends jumped off the bridge, would you jump off too? Do you remember hearing that? But it's actually really true, because what it really means is you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And if the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with are not doing well in life, or they're negative, they're pessimistic, they're not actually trying to grow beyond who they are, then you will, by proxy, be that person as well. I heard this interesting quote today. Well, it's not a quote, but I was listening to Andrew Tate, and everybody has an opinion on Andrew Tate, but I'm listening to him talk about your circle of influence. And what he said is, if you are not interested in ice cream, for example, but you hang around people who are really interested in ice cream, and they produce all kinds of different ice cream, even if you're not interested, you will learn all of the things about ice cream, whether you want to or not. And that's why it's so essential to surround yourself with people who are doing incredible things and want to do incredible things. Because even if you don't desire that, let's just say that you don't, you will change. You will, because people will rise to the occasion or they will fall. It's the craziest thing. And I think that I really wish that I had understood this philosophy earlier in life. It probably would have helped me immensely. It would have created change earlier for me. But your circle of influence is an influence on you in more ways than you could ever imagine.
Yeah. When I was struggling in life, and or for the 50 years that I really struggled in life, it was of so much of that was I was hanging around with the wrong. Now I was the wrong person too, because when you get around the wrong people, dumb shit tends to happen. You do stupid things, and when you're around people doing dumb shit, your life becomes dumb shit. I heard Tony Robbins say, it doesn't matter how much you're worth, or it doesn't matter what you've got going on in your life. If your life is chaos and overwhelmed, your life is chaos and overwhelmed. That's what it is. That's what, and so that's the same. It goes for that. If you're doing dumb stuff all the time, you're staying drunk all the time. You're not, keeping your word. You're not going to work. You're not working on things that are bigger than you. Then that's what your life's going to be.
Yeah, I can agree with you more. I had heard this interesting statistic, and it was with regards to people that grow up in cities where there's a high amount of crime, for example. Initially they resist it. They think it's wrong, but they become so numb to it that it just becomes normal to them. And then they don't resist it. And eventually they just adopt it. And you can actually apply that psychology to whatever is your influence. You become immune and almost, I don't want to say zombie-like, but yeah, kind of zombie-like, based on your influence, your circle of influence, the people in the community that you live in, where you go, what you listen to, how you digest information, how you perceive information. All of that is a result of the people that you talk to on a consistent basis. So someone who has a growth mindset, who believes that they are unstoppable, that they can learn anything, that they can go off into life and do the big things they want to do, they will purposely look for those kind of people. And because they're thinking about that, they will tune out all the rest, right? And they will naturally attract people who are doing those things. And the reverse is true. So if you hang around people who are doing nothing, and you are negative and pessimistic, you watch the news, you digest information that's negative and toxic, then you will also attract people who are just like you. It's almost like we have to purposely surround ourselves and look for those people. And it's in the Bible, and I'm probably going to really mess up this quote, but, seek and you shall find, right? Seek it out. Ask and it shall be given to you. There's a lot of truth to all of those verses. You have to seek and you have to ask. Well, and you've got to put some action behind it, but you get my drift.
I think manifestation is. So like because you get what you focus on. Mm-hmm. That's 100% true. So if you're focused on, buying a house, then and you're doing that, and you got it all. Like, okay, let me reverse engineer. What does that look like? What do I need to do to do that? I need to save a certain amount of money. I need to get my credit straight. I need to, whatever you need to do there. I need to find the house. I need to get somebody, that's capable to teach me how to do it. Whatever it may be, you reverse engineer and you do this, and you're focused on that, and it's going to happen for you eventually if you stay focused on it. The reason it doesn't happen for people, whatever the goal might be, whether it be starting your business, whether it be buying a house, whether it be a certain income, whatever it might be, is because they lose focus. Everybody loses focus. Everybody.
Well, there's so much to distract us, right?
Yeah.
And it's far easier to cling to the things that we're used to than to bet on the uncertainty of what we really want. And that's where most people get extremely hung up.
Get into identity, because we have these false identities that we cling to,
that we don't know about. Most of us don't know what's running on behind the scenes. I'm a huge fan of Dr. Joe Dispenza, for example. I have several of his books. I think he's phenomenal at the way he talks about the law of attraction, and he never calls it that. I mean, he's extremely relatable in that all of his research is very scientifically based. And one of the things that he talks about a lot is you are creating your future in every present moment, which I completely agree with. So your future is very dependent on what you do today, what you do in this hour, what you do in this minute. But the thing that he doesn't talk about, and the thing that he actually is not a fan of, is doing the deep inner work. And the deep inner work is really looking into your past and digging out the things that you intrinsically believe that are impacting the way you show up in your present, right? For me, when I started my own journey, I actually did things in reverse to what he teaches. I started with forgiveness, and then I started with acceptance. Those were two of the key things that I did that really helped me go on and have a newfound freedom that I had never experienced before. My life up until my early 40s was filled with rage and bitterness and a lot of judgment and a lot of blame. Instead of taking any kind of responsibility for the results that I had created, it was far easier for me to blame everyone else on how I was showing up in my own life.
Let's go back a little bit to Dr. Joe Dispenza, right?
Dispenza. Mm-hmm.
Dispenza. So, you said that he doesn't, or what I heard was he's not into doing the inner work. Can you kind of clarify that a little bit for me? Like, because I think I want to talk about this a little bit, because I've had some thoughts about this myself.
He doesn't encourage you to focus on the past. He encourages you to stay fully present in the moment. So many of his meditations are about basically removing yourself from what's going on. You become, and he says this a lot, you become nobody no person in no time. And what that essentially does is it separates you from what is going on. And from there, you sequentially start building out the kind of future that you want. I love that, by the way. I love being able to build out the future I want. And I'm a huge fan of meditation. But where I challenge what he does is he does not encourage you to actually look at why you created the present you have in the first place. Because there's a lot that we as humans have adopted and believe that we're not even cognizantly aware of. And so much of who we are, if we're not careful, can ruin our lives. And for me, that was very true. A lot of the beliefs I had, a lot of the actions I took, a lot of the actions I didn't take were all rooted in my childhood, based on things that just weren't true, right? Things that I believed about myself. And your beliefs skew how you show up in life. And so if you do not believe that you are worthy, then you will not act like you are. And you will not bring people to your life that reflect that back to you. You will actually get the opposite. And the universe will spank your ass over and over and over until you figure it out. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you should see all the time. Agree with necessarily with what he said with what his stance on that, but I can see kind of where it hurts people too, because like you get what you focus on. We covered that, and so I've seen people that just, it's okay to look back and figure out why you got where you are. You need to do that so that you can build, because that's your foundation, right? This is your starting point. But so you need to look back and go, okay, how did I get to this starting point, so that you can figure out if it's real or whatever. You just understand it. But if I see people go back there and stay there, to spend too much time there.
Well, here's the thing. That's where acceptance comes into place, right? One of the things that I had to come to terms with is this. It's done. It happened. I cannot go back and change the way this person treated me, the way they showed up for me, nor can I change how I showed up or what I did. I can only accept that it has happened. The other thing that was really important to me was the forgiveness. So forgiveness was one of the hardest things for me personally, just because I loved being right. And I really felt like if I forgave people, or even myself, that I was somehow condoning my crappy behavior or someone else's crappy behavior. And I was more or less excusing the way that I acted or they acted. When the truth is, forgiveness isn't a condonement. In other words, I wasn't condoning behavior, but I was releasing myself from it and I was letting it go. You know, forgiveness is another thing that's talked about in the Bible a lot. And there's a good reason that it's talked about in the Bible, because when you refuse to forgive people, whether you realize it or not, you are emotionally tethered to them forever and ever and ever. Amen. And a lot of people don't realize that also you are carrying around the emotional baggage of that resentment and rage and bitterness and judgment with you everywhere you go. And it skews how you show up in your own life.
What role does ego play in all that?
Yeah, our egos are really interesting things, aren't they? So your ego is trying to protect you, right? It is trying to prevent you from doing something that's going to make it feel uncomfortable, you know? For example, to go back to what I was talking about before, my desire to be right was huge. The reason that I desired to be right is because if I admitted that I had failed, that I was wrong, then that would reinforce the story that I was bad, that I wasn't smart enough, that I wasn't worthy. And so I used my desire to be right, which is my ego playing off in the background, as a way to avoid feeling any of the emotions that I talked about before. So when I was willing to accept the fact that I was not perfect, that I would fail, and that it takes more courage to admit that than it does to stay the same, then it no longer had that emotional charge that it did before. People want to know how they create change. Like, how do I change my life, right? You and I see that a lot. We talk about it a lot. A lot of the people that we are immersed with on Facebook and in different communities also talk about it a lot. So how do you change? Well, you start questioning what you do. You start questioning what you don't do. And you also start thinking about what you're thinking about. So what do you think about on a daily basis? What are your thoughts? Are your thoughts positive? I'm a good person. People are good. Men are good. That was a huge one for me. I thought all men were complete assholes. And I told everyone that. And guess what showed up in my life? Surprise, surprise. But it's true. Like, what do you believe about yourself? What are you thinking about yourself? What do you believe about people? What do you believe about the future of our nation, for example? What do you believe about your future? What do you do on a daily basis? What do you avoid doing on a daily basis? Most people will not sit down and ever ask those powerful questions, but you know you better than anyone else. And are you interested in really knowing who you are? Because that's how you start changing. When we start challenging the beliefs, the thoughts that we have on repeat, then we can start creating change, because thoughts generate feelings, feelings generate actions, and actions generate results, whether you take an action or not.
Thoughts generate feelings. Feelings generate actions. Actions generate results.
Mm-hmm.
Write that down. That's one to take action on for sure. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, we get deep fast. We always do. So you've recently. Let's talk about you a few minutes. You've recently moved to Tennessee. I want to hear about that a little bit. Like, what's going on there? What are you up to there? How's it going?
So this is a great story of having a dream and making it happen. I really wanted to be in Tennessee. I made that decision several years ago. I grew up in North Carolina. I was born in Kentucky. I was really missing the mountains, the East Coast, and frankly, the East Coast beaches. I'm a Myrtle Beach loving South Carolina girl, right? So, sorry. I made the decision about 2 years ago. We ultimately decided to continue living in Texas because my daughter was in high school and I wanted to be closer to her until she graduated. So she was a senior last year. And as she started her senior year of high school, my husband and we started thinking about moving to Tennessee, like making that happen. Where are we going to be? We love the idea of the city, but to be honest, like we wanted a more simpler lifestyle. So we wanted to be close to it, but we didn't want to actually live in it. We had no idea where we were going to land. And we came out here in November of 2022 to an Arete meetup, one Arete event that they had. And it was our opportunity to actually tour the area and drive around. So as fate would have it, we just kind of followed our hearts. We drove around all day and we found a little community that we really liked. We actually didn't end up in that community, ironically, but we are 20 minutes from the initial place that we looked at. And by the way, we found a house, we built a house, we did it all via Texas. In other words, we weren't even here. And we just decided to do it. It's turned out to be the most amazing thing. I feel so fulfilled here in such a different way. I love Texas, by the way. I'm glad I'm not there right now because like the high today is going to be like 90. Last night it was so cold. I had a sweatshirt on. I'm not even mad. But It's great to be in a smaller community. I really do not have like a ton of people in the tiny little town that I live in, and it's great. So we go for drives all the time. And it's just green, it's trees, it's rivers, it's gorgeous. Can you tell how in love I am with where I live? I'm at peace and I'm happy and I'm closer to Kentucky. I have a lot of family that still lives there. My mom is actually buried there. And, I'm driving distance to my dad now, who lives in Florida. And before I could have made the drive, but it was significantly, more time. I just made the decision to follow the dream that was placed on my heart. And that's what I did. It was zero regrets. Zero regrets. It's amazing. Do I love it here? Yes, I love it here.
It's beautiful there.
It is.
I've got a good friend that he lives in Georgia now, but he's lived in that area that you're talking about for I guess 20 years now at this point. But it's really pretty out there.
Mm-hmm. There's something to be said about being surrounded by nature.
Oh yeah, man. We bought a house a couple of months ago, and about 3 months ago, and it's kind of out a little bit, and it is. It's important. It's so relaxing. It's grounding.
I enjoy it. It's always interesting to me. When I was growing up, I was born in Kentucky. We had this lake that we used to go to growing up. My grandparents had a single wide trailer on this lake. And, my dad built the dock with old telephone poles because he worked for the telephone company when he just started out. And I loved that place. I used to go fishing on that lake. I would watch the sunrise in the morning and I would watch the sunset in the evening. So many of my childhood memories are wrapped up in being at that lake, which, by the way, was 30 minutes outside of town. You had to take 2 different gravel roads up the hill, through the cove, it was just crazy. So it's interesting to me that I spent my whole life, or the majority of my life, thinking that I wanted something different. And I'm glad that I experienced the big city life. I'm glad that I got to do all the things I wanted to do. But here I am, in my late 40s, desiring something that's so much more simple and something that's so much more peaceful and gives me, more harmony and, I guess, solace. That's really what's most important to me now. And I've been able to create that where we live. And, it has been absolutely amazing.
How's it going with your coaching business? How is your being where you're located now and you're being grounded, reflecting on your work? Because I bet you it's helping it a lot.
It definitely gives me more inspiration. One of the things that I had set as a goal, well, I have several goals, but one of the goals that I had when we landed here was to start going to local meetings and getting to know and connect with the people that are inside my community. I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, everyone here is extremely kind. Everyone's super nice. It's just so different here. It's so hard to put into words, but for example, when you walk into a store here, you're greeted. It's clean. Everyone is kind. Everyone is helpful. They have a sense of ownership in what they do. It's just a very different vibe. It's a very different experience. So, I recently went to Toastmasters here because I love speaking. I went the first time just this past week, it was the first meeting I could attend since I moved here. Everyone was fabulous. It was the best first Toastmasters meeting I've ever attended. And I've been in Toastmasters on and off since 2017, giving it up for a period of time when my daughter was playing softball. But I was just in awe. And it's just another example of doing what you're led to do, not questioning it, getting yourself out there. It's a very, very different kind of vibe and feeling. So yes, it's had a huge impact on me. I'm obviously happy in a different way. Texas was great for me. I lived in Texas over 24 years. That's a long time. It's a really long time. I spent the majority of my Texas time in the Fort Worth area. And then I moved to Austin in 2017, and I absolutely loved Austin. And then I moved here. It's funny when you start doing things like that, we get asked a lot, like, why? Why are you guys moving? Why would you do that? We just want to. It's crazy. It blows people's mind when you say that. We just wanted to. Like, you need a reason. It's like, I just want to move there.
I think, when we first started talking about this, you explained well why you wanted to do it and where it was coming from. And I think it's very important. And I say this all the time. I call it happy success. It's you can't have success without the word happy in it, really, really prevalent in it. And people get that mixed up all the time because us humans, man, we overcomplicate the crap out of everything. And I think that it's a great example for your clients. It's a great example for the people that love you, that you're able to figure out what makes you happy and then go put that at the top of the list. And I think that's something that we're humans are just not great at that.
Yeah, I agree. We all question whether we should do it or should not do it. And so many of the questions that we have about whether we should or should not do it is, do I deserve this? Do I deserve this? Because we question whether or not we should be truly happy, because there is so much that's going on outside of us and inside our nation, right? Things that people are experiencing, the heartbreak and the frustration that we see all over the place. But what I try to do is insulate myself and stay on path. It's not always easy. I think a lot of people believe that you go through this metamorphosis and all of a sudden you are just happy all the time, that you don't have challenges, that you don't experience the things that other people experience. No, that's not true. I still have my own challenges. I still experience things that rock me to my core. But the difference between the Michelle that, was in her early 40s and the Michelle that, is here now is that the Michelle here and now knows how to navigate those challenges and those experiences. She knows what to do. She knows how to work it out internally, how to flip it on its head, how to make it about what happened and not make it about her. Because that's what so many people do. It becomes their identity. Something bad happens and it rocks them to the core, because instead of it being an event, now it's a life. Now it's about them. It's reflective of them. And the truth is, the only thing that we have control over is ourselves. So why wouldn't you work on yourself? You cannot control other people. You can't control the economy. God knows we can't control the president. So you have to work on yourself relentlessly. And if you refuse to do that, then you have no right to complain or blame anyone else.
And I say that all the time. If you can look in the mirror and you can say, I did everything I could do today to become successful and get what I wanted in life, my definition of happy, write that at the top of the page. And if you can reverse engineer and you can say it, the end of the day, I did everything I could do and I still couldn't get it done because of whatever politician you want to talk about, or whoever, teacher, whatever, whoever you want to blame, then that's fine. Let's have that discussion. But if you are going to be honest and ethical and look me in the eyes and say, you know what, I didn't do everything I should have, I was half-assing over here in this part, then we got work to do on us first, and then we can start looking at other avenues. But 100% are not doing everything they can do. I'm not doing everything I can do. You're not either. No, neither are any of the listeners out there. So until we do that, until we maximize what God gave us, we don't need to be bitching.
Well, and when you complain, you intrinsically bring things to your life to complain about. That's just how it works. The more you complain, the more things you will have to complain about. You know, it's the way it is.
You have to change your beliefs first about I don't like the way I said that. It's so get rid of that. Let's go to accountability. I didn't get anything I wanted in this world until I took. And my wife will tell you, man, I'm the most extreme accountable to the point it gets on people's nerves. I mean, and people are like, dude, why are you so? I mean, if somebody hangs a wreck outside my windows right now, man, I'm gonna be jacking around with the lights, wondering what I could have done different on my end to make it where maybe maybe it would have made it less of a percentage chance that somebody would have had a car accident out in front of my house. Whatever I have to do on my end to take control of my life and take accountability for it, I'm going to do that because that's all I can control.
Tom Bailu says the same thing. Do you know who he is?
No.
He was the creator of a nutrition bar. I think it was called Quest. And then he actually interviews like tons of people. I had the opportunity to meet him several years ago at a Success magazine event, but he says that all the time. Like, I have extreme responsibility. I take extreme accountability for everything. And people think that it's absurd. But would you rather be extreme in accountability, or would you rather have zero? Which one of those do you think is going to help you create the results you want?
It keeps me up at night, and I feel guilty a lot of times for things that I probably shouldn't feel guilty about. But there's a lot of power that comes from it. And I look up and it's stressful. There's a lot on my shoulders, but I look up and have a better life than I've ever had. And I don't think it's a coincidence.
No, it's not. I really believe that, when we look at people that we admire, we believe that they have something that we don't have. And what I've learned over the course of the past year, especially, is it's not that people are more intelligent who are successful. It's that they just never gave up, that they were hungry, that they had grit, that they stayed determined. When I was at the Toastmasters meeting, one of the gentlemen that was there, he had given this speech, and it was really his opportunity to practice his elevator pitch. And he's young, he's very successful, he's done very well, but he struggled in front of 8 people. Okay. And he has this speech that he's giving tomorrow, as a matter of fact. And after the event was over, I pulled him aside and I gave him this advice. Your story is really important. I said, you started here, you moved here, you changed your priorities because you got married, and then you aligned yourself with this company because of all those reasons. And I said, if you want people to follow you, I said, then share your story and share your big why. And he's like, is that all I have to do? Yes, that's all you have to do. I said, because now more than ever, what do people want more than anything? They want to live a life that creates freedom for them. So help them do that. And this is how you do it. And it was like, I told my husband when I got home, I said, that was the most empowering part of the entire event I was at, was pouring into him and giving him advice on how to do something and do it with passion and do it with purpose, because he's recruiting people, right? He's trying to get people on his team. Well, how do you get people on your team? You connect with them. You let them know that you are human, that you failed. Because I have more respect for people who have experienced the hardest things and have risen despite them than the people who have always had it easy, because no one knows what you will do until you are faced with it. Do you sit there, or do you rise because of it? Do you rise despite of it? If you've never experienced hardship or struggle and had to overcome it, how do you know that you can? I want to know your story. I want to know what happened. I want to know how you got out of that situation. What were you going through? What were the emotions? It's why I'm so transparent about all the failures I had in relationships. I mean, God knows, and there were a ton. I was the poster child for bad relationships, not so great marriages, and just extreme low self-esteem and confidence. The woman you see now is not the woman that showed up 20 years ago, 10 years ago, even, 8 years ago. The things that I tolerated in my life shock me. It's like I don't even know that person, but there's a woman out there right now who thinks that she's a lone island and that she's the only person that's going through it, and she will not admit it because she doesn't want to admit that she failed. She doesn't want to admit that she needs help, and she doesn't want to face the fact that she has to change, that something has to change, or she is going to die that way and she's going to be miserable. That's why I do what I do. That's why I share my comeback story. That's why I share my failures and my failed marriages and all of the failed relationships. And it's why I'm honest about it, because I was her. I thought I was all alone, and I wasn't.
Let's talk about that a few minutes. I want to give you a chance to flex your muscles here and show us your skill set, because you've got an awesome one. So for that mom out there that's struggling, that is in that place that you used to be in, let's talk about and we can talk more about that person so that we can identify exactly who that is, whatever you need to do. But let's talk about what they need to do first, because they're sitting there going, I don't know what to do. Things are out of my control. I'm overwhelmed. I feel like an avalanche is coming at me. What does this person need to do first?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, like, what I did was I immediately hired help. Like, if you are struggling right now and you are single and divorced and you have kids or not, the first thing that I want to tell you is that I completely sympathize with your situation. That was me. And it was me for a very, very long time. Decades and decades and decades. So, number one, you're not alone. I will tell you that. But number two, whether you seek therapy from a therapist or you hire a coach, I would encourage you to go and do that. Because the thing that is holding you back is the thing that you probably don't even realize. And so you have to get to know yourself so you can have what you want. The other thing that I would encourage them to do is release the people from your past. And this is a hard thing to do, right? Especially for women who are single moms. They are in the co-parenting struggle. They are in the deep of it, trying to make a living, take care of their kids, manage a million things. The struggle is so real, right? Find a way to sit down with yourself and go through all the people that have hurt you. Seriously, this is such a powerful exercise, and most people will resist it. But if you do this, you will be leaps and bounds ahead of other people. Sit down, make a list of every single person who has hurt you. Get it all out. Every single one. If the 5-year-old that you went to kindergarten with, like, threw mud in your face, write it down. Like, every single thing and what happened. Because if you can remember it and you can recall it, and it creates an emotion in you, sadness, anger, frustration, right? All those negative things that we sometimes feel, then you're still emotionally attached to it. It's still taking up space in your brain, okay? The other thing that I would encourage you to do is think about the one person on that list that hurt you the most. It could be your parent. It could be a friend. It could be a failed relationship. And then work on forgiving that person. So I'll share with you what I did. I would sit on the floor of my bedroom. And the person I had to forgive, by the way, was a parent. So I would sit on the floor of my bedroom and I would see myself going to a bench on a park. It was a bright, sunny day. And my mom would be sitting on that bench, and she's gone, right? But I would just scream and yell and just rage and cry. And when I was done, she would just go, "Thank you. I'm so sorry." And that was it. And I did that over and over and over, day after day after day. I was just so hungry for the release, right? It's subtle, but it's so huge. And after a period of time, I no longer felt that way about my mom anymore, right? Everyone thinks that I condone what showed up for me. Nothing could be further from the truth. But do you know what did happen? I empathize with my mom. I really do, because my mom had a toxic mom. She had a mom that didn't show her love, that showed her the opposite of love. And so how could I hate the woman who had a mother like that when she mothered me the best way that she could, that she loved me as much as she possibly could, right? And the ironic thing about all this is you do it with the hardest person. When you go on to forgive others, it becomes easier and easier because you are not attached to them anymore. The other thing that I would encourage everyone to do, and I'm giving you different steps and different things that you can implement, start journaling. I talk about this all the time. My journals are my tornadoes. I go in and I write down what I'm grateful for, but they also hold the list of my goals. They hold my deepest desires. And then sometimes, they hold a lot of things that I would not tell another living soul. I have burned journals. They have been so bad, but that's okay because you're getting it out. And sometimes writing things is the most powerful thing that we can do. I don't believe in writing journals on your phone, on your tablet, or on your computer. It is so critical that you pick up a pen, that you write it on paper. They have proved this over and over in studies that when we do this, there is a very different thing that happens in our lives than if we just typed it on a computer, right? Hand to paper. So every morning, and I still do this, I write down what I'm grateful for before I ever check Facebook or Instagram or log on to my email or whatever. That's the first thing I do. And then the second thing I do is I write down my goals. And then every month I write down what I'm avoiding, because God knows I will still avoid things. And I'm like, what do I avoid and why am I avoiding it? So those are just some of the things that I would implement, but get help. Follow people who are talking about relationships, who are talking about the things that you desire. Listen to podcasts, get on YouTube, and hire someone to help you, because doing that will impact the way you show up and the things you bring to your life more than anything else. Because a lot of you won't do it because you need someone to hold you accountable. And that's what a therapist or coach will do.
And then the other thing that's so powerful about hiring somebody to help you is or just getting an outside person to help you, is that they can see, when you're inside of it, you can't see it. And
Nope.
So this person is on the outside and they can see it. So many of, us people that do coach other people, we go through the same stuff that we teach, we coach people on, and we can't even see it inside of ourselves sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It's very powerful to get somebody to help you. If you don't have money, just get somebody that's in a good place, that's actually ahead of you are, that can give you some guidance. And if you do have some money, then hire somebody that can professionally help you, because I think that's powerful. So how can we find you on social media if somebody does want to connect with you to discuss hiring you to help them? They've heard plenty of good stuff today. Where can we find you on social media?
I'm on Instagram at @1bold_MF. And I am on Facebook, Michelle Fuller, potentially 1boldMF. I think that, but I have a pink background. You can't miss me. My profile is a side view with a pink background, which clearly happens to be my favorite color.
I appreciate you coming in and hanging out with me, Michelle. It's been a while, so it's great to catch up with you.
Yeah,
You
it's
look
always
great.
a pleasure.
You look
Oh,
great.
thank you.
Tennessee's
Yeah.
treating you wonderful.
Yeah, I absolutely love it here. I am in my bliss. I am in my bliss.
All right. Well, tell that man of yours hello.
I will. I will tell him you said hello.
Right. So I know you guys have heard some good stuff today. Take action on it. And Michelle, again, I appreciate you coming in. It's always great to hang out with you. We'll see you guys each and every week on Wednesdays at 12 noon Central. Appreciate y'all watching and keep growing.